Welcome back. And in this segment, as we're coming from Beit el-Kritleya or the Geyer Anderson Museum, it's important to talk about tourism, especially that before the revolution, it was one of the main or the main source of income for the Egyptian economy. It employs more than 14 million Egyptians, and now it's picking up again as Egypt has regained its stability, and there are so many economic reforms as well as promotions and initiatives for the promotion of tourism in Egypt. We will be looking into the latest news about tourism and means of promoting it, and I'm happy to have with me Dr. Yehia Abdel. Dr. Yehia is in addition to being a former counselor and consultant for the Ministry of Tourism Promotion Authority. Also, he's a professor at the Faculty of Hotels and Tourism. He's a professor of hotel management, mass communication, tourism, and more. And he is the expert who can tell us more about what to do and the do's and don'ts. Welcome with us and good afternoon, Doctor.
Thank you very much for inviting me for such interesting program for the international TV, and really I'm glad to be here at el-Kritleya Geyer Anderson Mansion, which is one of the landmarks of Egyptian history and antiquities.
Dr. Yehia, let's start with your evaluation for tourism during the last few years. How do you estimate the situation of tourism so far?
Actually, we've been lucky since last year, that's 2017 and 2018. There have been like influx of international tourism to Egypt. This year we have about 55% increase in tourist arrivals. By the end of the year we'll be scoring like 11 million tourists, which in revenues, tourist receipts, international receipts, it will amount to a little bit in excess of $11 billion. And if we calculate this correctly, there's a multiplier effect. So this is going to be an addition, a contribution to the gross national economy by $25 billion.
Doctor, as a consultant or a former consultant for the Ministry of Tourism, the Promotion Authority in particular, what do we need to do to be able to promote tourism in Egypt further?
Actually, we are glad because Dr. Rani Al-Mashat is creating and launching a very dynamic initiative and creative campaigns, which was highlighted in the World Cup in Moscow, and the campaign she launched. Really, that was creative and touched, like many parties and investors worldwide. Secondly, our tourist offices worldwide, we have like now currently 14 offices. With nearly they need to be doubled to become at least like 30 offices, because these offices, they carry out the policy and strategy of the Ministry of Tourism. Number three, we need to launch and concentrate on digital marketing and promotions, because now we know like booking internationally and the whole world is moving into social media, and its impact on booking airlines, booking hotels, resorts, and getting updates, like on some of the exotic recreations and attractions worldwide. Again, we have to carry on fam trips, where we can get, like tour operators to visit Egypt and give their impressions, like about the quality of tourist facilities in Egypt. We have to carry on road shows, which I've been involved in some of these road shows, like worldwide, when I was in New York and Los Angeles, working for the Egyptian Tourism Authority. And lately, like His Excellency Khalid Anani and the Minister of Tourism, they were in Monte Carlo attending one of the exhibits of the Egyptian antiquities, so this is really a great, attraction and an event to remind the world of, how attractive our antiquities, so they should come back to Egypt to visit and see more.
Sir, there were recent archaeological discoveries took place in Egypt, in Alexandria and in Giza. Many discoveries, actually. And of course, it made the headlines around the world. How can we make benefit of these discoveries to attract tourism to Egypt?
Well, actually, I'm glad you asked this question, because I worked for 9 years in the United States Metropolitan Museum and Pennsylvania and the Los Angeles museums. So worldwide, Egyptian antiquities is highly regarded and highly kept, and they do research in different areas in anthropology, the artifacts, the history, the religion, the music, the fashion. So with every discovery, like the latest sarcophagus that we digged up in Alexandria, this is highlighting, you know, like the legendary of Alexander the Great, and it brings memories again to Alexandria as what was like one of the great hubs, you know, like culturally in the 1st to 5th century AD. So this is one area, and again, anything that we dig up near like the Saqqara necropolis and throughout Egypt, it brings the media and people, you know, like the get more information and, you know, like info about Egypt, civilization and culture, and that makes them to come and study and tour and stay longer periods in the future.
Now, Doctor, you've worked abroad, you've worked as a tourism professor, you've worked as a mass communication professor as well. Now, for Egypt itself, to what extent is tourism in Egypt different than elsewhere? And when working elsewhere, is promotion, tourism promotion, would it differ from one country to another, or are there certain basics and tools that you work with, whatever the country and whatever the aspects in it?
Well, our problem is not a problem of shortage, but it is a problem of abundance. Because, you know, like Egypt is like the, as Herodotus say, this is like the crown of history, like worldwide and civilization. So every country in the world, at one point, they feel that they belong to the Egyptian civilization, like, you know, like students in kindergarten worldwide, they study Egyptian civilization and culture. And I've been to some of the schools, you know, like in New York, where students, you know, like they make presentations and they come and visit. Even during the summer vacations, you know, I saw some books this summer coming from Europe, and they're giving the student, who was like 7 and 8 years old, puzzle books. It's all about Egyptian civilization and history and adventures. So Egypt is embedded, you know, like in the subconscious of the whole world. And because of our, you know, like rich and abundant history, so our problem is the problems of abundance, because we have prehistoric history, we have 30 dynasties, we have Greco-Roman period, we have Coptic period, we have the Islamic, and this is one of the manifestations of this Islamic history, and Mamluk and all this period, and then we have the recent era. So really our history is a great factor that contributes to our national identity, to promote Egypt. And we need like more minds and venues, you know, like to explore and present this history worldwide.
Doctor, we have here in Egypt treasures, not only the monuments, but we have places, fascinating places. We have the seas, we have the beautiful places, oases,
Yes.
and of course the historical places. It's one of a kind.
Yes.
Other countries doesn't have 1/3 of what we have, and they attract more tourists. So what's the problem?
Well, the problem, it's the management of the assets, you know, like what we have, because earlier, you know, like as I outlined, tourism as a makeup, like if it's like 100, you know, like parts, 70% is outside the you know, like the domain of tourism. For example, you know, like Egypt last week was downgraded, you know, by the World Bank for the Logistics Service Index from 49 to 63. That means it went down 18 points. Why? Because we have an excellent network of roads, but the management of customs and shipping and facilitation of goods to come in and out is slow. So with the hardware, we are very strong, but with the software, with the administration, it makes us like reluctant and draws us back behind. So really the Ministry of Tourism, you know, like they are doing their part, but other factors that we have, for example, I was reviewing the travel tourism competitiveness report, which is presented in the World Economic Forum in Switzerland, and they have like 14 factors. One of these, for example, is security. So out of 134 countries, Egypt get 130, which is a very, you know, like, so this is one of the elements which make people make up their mind. But on the positive side, Egypt ranks second as the price competitiveness. Number one in the world is Iran, and number two in Egypt. Worldwide, we have the least expensive accommodation and tourist facilities prices. We have to embark and, you know, like build on this, you know, like competitive edge. But really, we are not promoting it. We are not providing it. We are not, you know, like advertising it. Which, of course, you know, like we have very distinctive location to be number 2 out of 134 countries worldwide, but we are not making use of it.
Doctor, definitely archaeological sites are not the only asset we have. It's the human asset that's important in tourism. And definitely that would, in that case, we'll need to talk about hospitality, which is on its own a certain measure that when you learn about tourism and hotels, definitely you talk about hospitality and how to deal with our clients once they are here, the visitors of Egypt. So what do we need, and what's usually the main things you use to tell your students about this particular aspect, the human aspect, which is very important?
Well, historically, Egypt has been like a very hospitable country and hosting, you know, like if we look at our blend and makeup of Egyptians, you know, we come from different backgrounds, you know, like people coming from Syria, people coming from Libya, people coming from the south, the Mediterranean, so our makeup of many nationalities, which is actually affecting our makeup, you know, like of food, fashion, culture, attitudes, which because Egypt has been a very cosmopolitan country. Remember Cairo and Alexandria, like throughout the recorded history, it has been like host to all prophets. Mostly they came to Egypt, you know, like kings, sultans. So it has been hub and very hospitable to many nationalities, regardless of color or belief or, you know, like background. So that's the reputation of Egypt, you know. And let us remember that the Holy Family has been resorting to Egypt for 4 years, you know. A resort, Prophet Abraham, many great figures in history has been resorting to Egypt. By nature, it is a hospitable country, and its people too, they carry, you know, like this genetic, you know, like feeling towards people. So our, you know, like there have been some surveys made by the World Tourism Organization, and Egypt has been regarded as one of the hospitable country because by nature we like to welcome people, give them food, shelter, you know, like make them accessible, you know, like to tours and location. But actually the problem is like with logistics, like transportation, for example. You know, like, so this is one of the areas, you know, because Cairo now there's like about 30 million inhabitants in one city. So the air quality, for example, is one of the things which make it less attractive because environmentally you have to work on this. Some of the problems we have, you know, like I've been to the Beta Scenario last week and I discovered it's closed on the weekends. So I mean like tourism places worldwide welcoming people on weekends. I asked why, say, it's administered by the Alexandria Library. So I hope Dr. Mustafa Al-Fay, which I know, and I met twice in Bahrain and here in Egypt in some lectures, that the antiquities, you know, like, and heritage houses like Bet Senari will be open to welcome tourists from 8 o'clock in the morning until 8 o'clock in the evening, really. We need this.
Well, Dr. Yehia Abdel Kader, definitely your input is very important and precious, and that's why we will be continuing with you after the break. So we'll be continuing with our guest after the break, so stay with us.